Hello and welcome to the Holographic podcast. I'm your host, Tone D, and I'm joined by my co-host, Kyle, the Salty Dog. Kyle, what's going on, buddy?
Oh, not too much, man. Just trying to funnel into what we call fall spring up here. It's been
Yeah,
super warm and sunny and gorgeous, and everybody gets lulled into a false sense of security, and then all of a sudden it's going to rain and snow and just be really shiggy out for a little while. So looks like that's coming this weekend.
same,
Whoop.
same in Colorado. It's like in The Hobbit, or the Lord of the Rings, second breakfast. We have first spring and second spring.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. All right, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us, for listening in and watching. And we have a exciting, fun show. We're really psyched on doing this show. We're going to talk about travel experiences, and we're going to tell some stories. On the Holographic podcast, we really enjoy talking a lot about some profound things. We enjoy talking about important things. We've talked about the nature of the universe, and we've talked about politics and how to fix politics. That is not this show. This show, we're just going to have some fun and talk about travel stories. Um, Travel is extremely important. Travel is important to me and to a lot of people. But right now, there hasn't been a lot of travel. I haven't really gone anywhere in a long time, and Kyle probably hasn't either. Most people haven't been traveling because of the COVID-19 pandemic that has been happening this past year in our world. So we haven't had a lot of travel. So because we haven't had a lot of travel, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about some of our experiences and some of our fun times, and hopefully we'll be able to travel soon again. And it'll happen. It'll happen eventually. It'll happen. We won't be in the pandemic forever, so it'll happen again. But until then, we'll tide each other over with some fun stories. Like I was saying, travel is very important. Kyle, what does travel mean to you personally?
Hmm. Well, certainly a lot. Like you said, there's a whole lot of importance to it. Um, and this isn't discounting anybody that wants to, stay in their routine day after day. Leading a good life. It's not really sort of like, oh, I'm better because I've been to these places. Because I really do dislike it when people sort of boast about it. But the
Right.
simple truth is that a lot of times the experience you get when you break out of your immediate geographical sphere is really, really enriching experience. And it comes in so many different forms. Sure, you spend some money. Definitely, it's expensive, but you can also travel on the cheap. But what you get back is sort of something that you really can't purchase in a store. You can't buy it online. You can't get it in a catalog. And that is just, it's really just it's enriching experience, whether it's the interfacing of a human with pure nature in the case of, say like a long trail through hiker, somebody that's really hermiting out and they just want to go and hike and be by themselves. They're communing in a way that, you really, like I said, you can't get that kind of experience if you don't just go and have that experience. Or there's the more conventional types of travel, which is even just going to sort of a beach resort someplace else and paying out a decent amount of money and staying someplace. I mean, I feel like that's probably the most superfluous and sort of skin deep type of travel. I do love to travel to tropical locations, but I like to get right down on the ground with everybody else. You know what I mean? I try and shy away from the resorts, but then you're talking about interfacing with people and cultures. And sure, you could listen to a record or watch of some folk music from the Bahamas, or you could watch a National Geographic program. But until you actually go to the Bahamas and speak to the people there or other locations and eat their food and listen to their music and really, really kind of get down and shake their hands and see the lines on their hands and the lines in their faces, that kind of stuff just really can't be it can't be replicated unless you the only way to get that experience is to do it.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so, it's really, if you can do it once a year, God bless you. More than that, that's great. Even if you can go somewhere once every 5 years, the important thing is just to do it. You
Absolutely.
gotta just make time to do it.
I agree. Have you ever been to the Grand Canyon? I'm curious.
No.
So, so I've been to the Grand Canyon a couple times. if you see it, and this is this is the difference between what you say, like seeing it in a magazine. If you when you see a picture of the Grand Canyon and when you actually go, it's it's the difference is indescribable. It's basically it's an
And I've heard that
indescribable thing.
actually.
So that's the
Yeah,
thing is
like
you
that's a good
have,
example.
yeah, you have to get out there and you have to check it out and get on the ground and be there for yourself and do it, because it's different. Now, like you said, like, you know, certain people aren't able to travel as much or they don't want to travel as much. I'm taking nothing away from that. I understand a lot of people may not have the monetary means and things like that, and they have to do the best they can, and it's like some of us are lucky enough to travel sometimes. Some people are lucky to travel all the time. I'm not one of those people that's able to travel all the time. So travel, I think sometimes is a it's a it's you know, we're lucky to do it, but it's not like you have to or you're a horrible person. That's not what we're saying. We're just saying if you have the opportunity, do it.
Yeah, and also let's also make it very plain. You don't have to get on a plane to
Right.
do it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like let's say I lived my whole life right where I am now in central Vermont, and I didn't really have the, you know, the desire to get on a plane or to go to foreign places. I like the weather here. Despite all of that, the Canadian border is 10 miles away. So going across the border is a very rich cultural experience. Or let's say I didn't even want to do that. I didn't want to bother that. I don't have a passport or anything. Even just getting in the car or getting in a friend's car and going for a drive of 2 or 3 hours
Yep.
and picnicking somewhere, in a lot of situations that could be the removal of yourself from your routine
Yep.
and the experience of doing something that you need to leave your close confines in order to do that. And that could be a completely life enriching experience. You know,
I
you never
completely
know who
agree.
you're going to meet on that picnic. You never know what kind of a sunset you're going to see on that picnic. You never know if you're going to fall in love with a cabin on the side of the road on that road trip, you know. And here I am only 45 minutes away from the house. So
That's
it
right.
doesn't have to be grand, it just has to be done.
And you know, if you live in a major urban area, you know, a city, you just get out of the city for a little bit, and that can make a big difference. And it doesn't have to be an expensive, long, crazy trip. But if you get out of that city for a little bit, that's travel. That's travel. I don't care what anyone says. You don't have to be rich and famous and jet set around the world. You just take a little trip out of the city, and that's travel, and that's worth it. So that's
Mm-hmm.
all we're saying. Get a little travel in. So I have been to Europe several times. My wife is European. I'm lucky to have gone to Europe several times. So my first story is gonna be about one of my first trips to Europe. But before that, I want to talk briefly about just some recommendations. We're gonna have a couple of recommendations. If you've never been to Europe, or if someone would like to go to Europe for the first time, I would recommend you start with Germany. And the reason I recommend you start with Germany is because in my travels around Europe, a lot of people in Germany speak English. A lot of people take English in school, and a lot of Germans are bilingual. But it's still a very different culture. You get there's you know there's this Bavarian, these Bavarian castles and this different, you know, the Bavarian food, and there's these very cool things. But a lot of people speak English, so I think Germany is a great place to start. That would be my first recommendation. Kyle, do you have a recommendation you think people should check out?
Well, in sticking with the European thing, I would say that I was absolutely thrilled with my trip to Spain.
Mm, hmm.
And part of the reason for that was because of the tremendous differences in cultural and physical geography, all held within the one country. It's a decent sized country.
Yeah.
It represents most of the Iberian Peninsula, but it seemed like when I was there, every, you know, rise in the road or curve or every, you know, 50 miles or so. The landscape changed, the cities were different, the food was a little different, the weather was vastly different from place to place to place. We went in November and we saw winter, spring, summer, all wrapped up together. It was wild. It was a really wild trip, and just the tremendous variance held within the confines of that country was amazing. I'd actually heard that if you want to see all of Europe within one country, go to Spain. And that was
Excellent.
definitely my experience. I had a really good time.
Nice. All right. I love that. Okay. Well, let's start with some stories. So when I was in my 20s, I went to Europe for the first time. I traveled with my sister and my father. And back then in my early 20s, I smoked a lot of pot. I was a dope head, and it was a good time. I was a snowboard bum, and that was a fun time in my life. My sister and my dad also smoked reefer. We smoked pot together. A family that smokes together stays together. And so we took a trip to Europe. We went to Amsterdam, and then we took a train down through a few countries to Italy. My grandfather is from Italy. My dad's dad is from Italy. He came over on a boat, so we wanted to go kind of see that area. It's out right outside of Naples, so we went down to southern Italy. So we took a train from Amsterdam to Italy, right? So we're in Amsterdam, me and my dad and my sister, and we're going to coffee shops and we're smoking and we're having a good time in Amsterdam and just, high the whole time, just having a fun time, right? So we get on this train to go to Italy, and we heard through my sister's friend who was in Italy that in Italy it's hard to get pot. It wasn't easy to get pot at that time in Italy.
I can
So
attest to that.
so me and my sister are like, whatever, no big deal. If we don't smoke down there, we don't smoke. But my dad, in his infinite wisdom, was like, I want some pot in Italy, so I'm gonna take some. And we're like, Dad, we're going across, you know, international borders. Is that a smart thing to do? And he's like, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. So he takes a nugget of marijuana and just takes this nugget and puts it in his blazer pocket. No bag, no bag, no tinfoil, no. Just takes a big, thick Amsterdam nugget, pops it in his blazer pocket. All right, whatever. What's that?
Idiot.
Yeah, idiot. So, so we get on this train, and we go through Belgium and we go through France, and it's it's many hours, and then it's an overnight train. So we don't have a sleeper at that point. We're just in seats, and so we're sitting, and there's other tourists, there's other, you know, people with backpackers and European types, and we're in this train, and we get to the Italian border, and the it stops at the border. We had stopped at other borders, and basically they just ask to see your passport. You show them your American passport, and you keep going. It's not a big deal. But at the Italian border, these real militant cop looking dudes got on with dogs, and they were drug sniffing dogs. So the drug sniffing dogs went straight to my dad because he's got this
Were they
nugget.
the Carabinieri?
I honestly don't know. I honestly don't remember what they were. I was I was a young man, and I was calling them the Italian Gestapo. I was like, the Italian Gestapo's here, because that's what they look like to me. They were like really military style dudes with these dogs. So the dogs went straight to my dad, and they found this nugget of pot, and so they pulled him up, and they were about to drag him off the train, and they asked him, who are you with? And they speak English, but they had thick Italian accents. Who are you with? And he's like, oh, my, these are my children with me. And so they came over, and they grabbed me, and they grabbed my sister, and they pulled us off the train. And that was at like 3 a.m. That was in the middle of the night. And they pull us up off the train at the Italian border, and they brought us into their station, and they separated us, and they took us into rooms and interrogated us. I don't know the room that my sister and my dad were in, but they brought me in this big giant room with concrete and no furniture and one chair and a light bulb coming down in the middle. It was like the classic European interrogation room. So they sat me down in this chair, and the Italian police basically interrogated me for the next 2 hours about the drugs that I was bringing into their country. And so, and they had my luggage and they searched every single thing. And they were like, oh, what is your marijuana? And I was like, I don't have any marijuana. And they're like, this man you were with, he has a marijuana. What is your marijuana? And I said, that's my father. He's got, he's older. He's got glaucoma. He smokes it for his pain. And we didn't know you weren't supposed to bring it. And that was it. And they're like, if you lie, it's a much worse. You tell the truth, it's a much better. You tell the truth. What is your marijuana? And I just stuck with that story, which was basically the truth. I didn't have any marijuana. I didn't have anything else on me.
Does your dad have glaucoma?
No,
liar.
That was the story, that I told. And so, and it was funny. It was interesting too, because Jurassic Park had come out before that, but it was popular throughout the world, right? You know the scene in Jurassic Park where he hides the embryo in the shaving cream? So they found, okay, so in Jurassic Park, a guy hides dinosaur embryos in the shaving cream. The Italian guy found my shaving cream in my thing and was just convinced the marijuana was in the shaving cream. And he was like, your marijuana is in a shaving cream container. And I was like, no. He's like, just tell me the truth. How you open? I don't want to bust it open. I was like, bust it open, man. I don't have any marijuana in my shaving cream.
Well, shaving cream.
It's just shaving cream. And it was just, this went on for like 2 hours. And I was just, after a while, it was evident that they weren't violent, that they weren't, gonna hurt me. It was just, they just really wanted to know if I was an international drug dealer. And I just stuck with this story that I wasn't, which I'm not. And so after a couple hours, they figured out I didn't have any other marijuana. So they brought me back into the chief, the head of the cops. They put us in the room, and then and then my dad and my sister came out. We hugged each other and, oh, you're okay? Yeah, we're okay. Everyone's okay. As it turns out, both my father and my sister told the exact same story about my dad, needing it for glaucoma. And so we had not discussed this at all beforehand. Oh. This was just like this was just in our heads.
All you Americans, you all have glaucoma. Yeah, all right. Of you.
Yeah. So the chief of the police sat us down as the family, and he said, you Americans, I don't understand you. Father, he smoke marijuana, but the kids, they good kids. You good, obviously good kids. And we were like, yeah, we're good kids. And he said to my dad, he said, marijuana in Italia is forbidden. It's forbidden. No marijuana in Italia. And my dad said, okay, I understand. He said, I don't care glaucoma. I don't care your pain. No marijuana in Italia. And my dad said, okay, I get it. And we're like, okay, yeah, we get it. And he said, okay, I understand what you did, but it's okay. You seem good family. Go ahead, go into Italia. So they put us on the next train at 5 or 6 a.m. and then we got on the train, and then they let us go, and we made it after being interrogated. Now that was the crazy part of the story, but it didn't completely end there. So we get on this train, the next train, and it's like 5 a.m. and it's a train going down to Rome. It's not a commuter train, so there's not a ton of people on it. And we get in this one of the little booths with the different seats, and there's no one in there except for this one guy, and he's like this young Italian guy in a tracksuit, and he's like looking at us, and we start talking, and then he hears us speak English, and he looks at us and he goes, American, and we're like, yeah, and he goes American, illumination, illumination. And we're like, okay, yeah, American illumination. And then he says this spiel in Italian, and we don't speak fluent Italian. We spoke a little bit, but he said it real fast in Italian. We said, I don't know. And he's like trying to get something from us, and we're just really confused. We don't know what's going on. And he figures out that he's not going to get anything from us, and he doesn't know what's going on, and we don't know what's going on. But every time he looks at us, he looks over at us and he goes, illumination. He starts doing this. So, and this goes on for like a couple hours, and we don't know what's going on, and we're just happy that we made it out of the Italian Gestapo police station, and we're on our way. We don't have the marijuana, but that's okay. We get to Rome, We get off the train to catch another train, and the guy we're with gets off and immediately starts saying this to other people, and they start giving him money, and he was a panhandler and he was trying to get money from us, but we didn't know what he was trying or what he was doing. And so immediately starts panhandling, and then but he just thought elimination was the only thing he could say to us, and then he panhandles and leaves, and then we go about our business and catch the train to southern Italy. And that's it. That was my crazy Italian border story.
Nice one, dude.
And
I thought you were gonna say the story doesn't end there, because as soon as we got to Rome, my dad hit the streets and scored a bunch of weed really cheap.
we ended up getting some hash in southern Italy. They had a lot
hash
of hash there.
Actually is much easier to come by.
Exactly. Although it gave me a headache, I didn't like it.
Yeah, when I was in Italy, we this is not my travel story, but you know, I'll just we had a lot easier time getting hash on the regular, and it was a really difficult thing for us to get some flour. I was there for a month, and it was really challenging. And by the time it came, it was like dirt. It was like dirt weed. It was gross. Anyway, good story, dude. Little run in with the authorities.
Little run in with the Italian cops, but they, like I said, they were nice. They didn't do anything bad to us. They just interrogated us. You're all right, Kyle. Your turn.
Okay. Well, I mean, I like the theme. I myself have had a run in with the law.
Yeah.
Different occasions. I'll stay domestic, and you know, it turned so. I had an awful experience with the fucking CIA, man.
That's crazy, Kyle.
I know, it really is. It's all my fault. I decided 1 year to take my motorcycle from here, where I live in Vermont, down to Asheville, North Carolina. Really, one of the best trips I've ever taken, all by myself on my motorcycle for 2.5 weeks down, all local roads, barely any highways except to get in and out of the major cities. And like I was sort of hinting at before, just sort of getting into the places where you just never really would have even known that they're there.
Mm-hmm.
Experiencing real life with real people, real locals. It was just really, really wonderful. And I tried as much as I could to line up along the way with places that I could stay with friends, because I knew that I was going to do a little bit of, not Airbnb, B&B hotel, maybe some camping if it was okay. And then along the way, stay with some friends. I have a cousin, a generation above me, but a cousin nonetheless, who lives in just outside DC on the Virginia side, Arlington, I think, area. So I was going to stop there, and what my standard thing is I didn't have a full pre-planned route, because like I said, I was taking a lot of locals. So each sort of day I would hole up someplace wherever I was staying, and the night before I would plot my course the next day, find a place that was roughly around where I wanted to in terms of destination, in terms of motorcycle travel, which isn't like traveling in a car. You're subject to the weather. You can't just head down the White Line Highway. All the roads are curvy, so it takes a lot longer to get someplace, but the travel experience, the road experience is much, much richer for it. So as I was plotting my course from wherever I was to my cousin's house in Virginia, I happened to be looking at the map, and this is the night before, and I saw on the map that the road that I was taking was just going to go right past Langley. Now I know from movies, because I like the Jack Ryan movies, Hunt for Red October, and many others, that Langley is in fact where the CIA headquarters is. So I also, by the way, had the idea of taking photographs and writing notes along the way to turn this into a little bit of a moto narrative and submit it to a magazine, which I was successful in other trips that I've taken. This one has still not come to fruition, despite the story I'm about to tell you. So what was going through my brain was, oh, you know what? I'll just I'll pop on by the CIA headquarters, and I'll stop outside the driveway where it's going to have some sort of a sign that says, CIA, Langley, whatever, and I'll just park the bike and take set up a picture and take a picture. And then I had it all planned out, like, where you get to put a caption in an article. It's going to have me on my bike and the sign behind it. And then the quote was going to say, "Oh, just thought I'd stop by and offer my expertise to the boys at Langley." It was really a kind of a good idea until it wasn't. So I'm driving down, and my course is good. I plotted it correctly, and I'm going there, and I'm at it's a sort of a two-lane, multi-lane highway, 2 lanes going one way, 2 lanes going the other way. There's a main entrance. CIA headquarters is off to my left, and there's a sign for it. I think it said the George H.W. Bush Center for Central Intelligence or something like that. It was definitely CIA. I don't remember if it said CIA, but anyway, it was crystal clear. The one thing I did notice is that there were 3 lanes going one way in and 3 lanes going one way out. And there was no place just to park the bike. So at that point, I should have listened to the little voice in my head that little voice inside my head that was saying, all right, it's not really perfectly convenient. Don't do it, go away. But I was sort of determined to get the shot, just like any reasonable journalist would be. You got to get the shot, man. You got to get the fucking shot,
Gotta get it.
So I waited for the light to turn green, and I motored on into the driveway. And like I said, it's 3 lanes going one direction, and there's no way to turn around. And as soon as I did that and passed over that threshold, I said, "Oh, fuck." Okay, but nothing big happened, because what I was thinking now is I would just get up to whatever was waiting for me, the gate, and I'd say, "Hey, you know what? I thought I was going to do this, and thought I was going to do that." And then they'd be like, "Oh yeah, go on, yeah, turn around. You can't do that here. See you later. Have a nice day." That's not exactly what happened. So I'm driving down, and it's going, and it's now probably I'm driving, I don't know, not a long way, but it's probably half a mile. It's not, and it's everything covered in trees. You know what I mean? I'm sure there's surveillance. I finally come to the row of toll booths, gates, you know what I mean? Unmanned. So that's the next thing. So I pull up to the gate, and I'm like, oh boy. And there's a little talk box, and they're like, "Hey, good afternoon. Can we help you?" And I was like, "Yes, my name's Kyle. I'm just a moto traveler. I had this stupid idea. I was going to pause for a picture by the sign. I see now that I can't do that. So I guess I'll just, go through the gate and turn around and leave." And he's like, "Yeah, no, it's not really going to work out like that." He's like, "Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to open this gate, and you're going to proceed to the next toll booth or gate, and I'm going to have an officer meet you there." So I'm like, well, I mean, I don't have a choice at this point. I'm in it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. So he opens the gate. I flip my visor down. I drive about another half a mile in. And now all of a sudden it widens out, and there's several gates, and I'm starting to see sort of some infrastructure there, but it's definitely a secure compound. And it wasn't just one officer there. There was a car with 2 people in it. And then there was another car at the gate with 2 people in it. And then there was guards in another corner off to the distance. And all of a sudden it turned into me alone with several different men around me.
CIA types.
Varying uniforms, and some of them were wearing suits, and it was just really weird. So the 2 guys, I pull up, I turn the bike off, I take the helmet off, and immediately the 2 guys come out, and these were standard uniform. They looked like police officers of some kind, but special uniform police officers, CIA ground personnel security. Immediately we go into the standard routine, good cop, bad cop. One of them's really friendly. The other guy is insulting me and finding out, like, he's calling me a criminal, a terrorist. He's like, "What's your story? What's your story here, pal? What do you got? What's in the bags? What kind of bullshit is shit?" I'm just like, "No, man, really. It's like, it was a stupid idea." And the other guy's just like, "Yeah, my partner's just messing with you, man." He's like, "Seriously though, what are you doing here?" I'm shitting bricks. Okay. I mean, because this is like really scary. It didn't help that I wasn't smuggling drugs, but I had a little bit of grass that I was bringing to a friend,
Sure.
just for fun, because that's what friends do for friends. So I was petrified that they were going to start looking through my bags. this goes on and on and on, you know, and like I said, the mean ones being really mean and the nice ones being really nice, and the other people, as near as I could tell, they probably were just having a grand old time, although they didn't show it. Every time I got sort of the gumption to kind of do one of this, the guy would be like, hey, right here, pal, right here. Don't be looking around. Anyway, goes on for a long time. They finally, like the same thing with your story, you know, they come to the realization that I'm not an international drug smuggler. I'm not there to bring any kind of a dirty bomb into the headquarters or any of this stuff. And then they kind of get on the same team, and now all of a sudden dealing with two moderately kind of mean cops that are just like, you're really an idiot. Like, what the hell were you thinking? You know, you can't just come around here and fuck with the CIA. Like, what were you, stupid? I was like, look, I know, guys, I'm really sorry. Like, what do you want me to do? You know, it's like, can I go now? And they're like, yeah, you can go, but you got to listen carefully. Here's exactly what's going to happen. You see that row of gates in front of you? You're not going through it. Okay. You see that other gate, and there's a gate in a side barrier that led to the other 3-lane highway that go out, the exit. Okay. He's like, I'm going to talk over the phone, to the guy that controls the gate. He's going to open that little gap in the concrete there. You're going to get on your bike. You're going to turn around. You're going to drive out to the edge of the driveway where you hit the stoplight when you came in. And from there, you can go wherever you want. He said, now listen to me very carefully. If you don't do that, you are either going to end up in jail or shot. Do you understand? And I was like, yes, sir, I understand. I was like, you know, I was all fucked up. I was like, yes, I understand. My mouth was dry. I mean, I could have spit butter. It was like, I mean, I didn't have one smidgen of anything left in me. And a lot of times what you do is I wear earplugs when I ride. To get your earplugs in, you kind of lick them a little bit and put them in your ears so they slide in. My helmet was off. I was like, yes, sir, I understand, sir. Yes, sir, I won't be anything stupid, sir. No, sir, I'm going to go through the thing, blah, 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 sir. Yes, sir. He's like, all right, well, you have a good day. And then they just sort of take one step back, and then they just sort of stand there waiting for me to put my earplugs in, funk my helmet on, you know, and do the thing. So I'm trying to like lube up my earplugs. I got nothing.
You're
I
like,
just
nah.
crammed them ugly into my ears, thunk down my helmet. I didn't even bother like doing the strap. I just kind of like, you know, just like flicked down my visor, and my hands are like this. I'm doing the best thing that I can to control. The gate opens. I navigate the bike through. I do a U-E. I go out to the end of the road, and then I continue in the direction that I was going in, and I was on my way to my cousin Susan's house. And as soon as I got on the main road, I just started just jibber jabbering my brain, like, Jesus Christ, what are you, stupid? What were you thinking? I just felt so dumb about my whole scenario. It was just an outrageous experience. And now it's this amazing story. I didn't end up in jail. I didn't end up shot. I didn't get the shot, which sucked. You know, and the moral of the story is don't make any casual visits to the spooks at Langley, man. They're not into it. I mean, I would say maybe the FBI might be a little bit more on the friendly side, but
Probably not.
avoid the whole thing. It was so stupid. But you know, I do have this great story to tell, and it was outrageous. It was just an outrageous scenario. And so, you know, only that kind of thing can happen, you know, when you leave the house. You got to leave the house in order for that to happen. So that was just this crazy experience. So yes, I had a very close encounter, close call with the CIA.
That's good. That's crazy. That you don't want to fuck with those guys, man.
No, man, not at all.
Although, you know, the United States forces, whether they're CIA or military or whatever, they go on some power trips, and that's a perfect segue to my next story. I wasn't sure if I was going to tell this one, but that's the first time I've heard that, Kyle. So that's awesome. So it'll segue perfect into this one, which is, mine's going to be very quick. It's nowhere near as crazy. But one time when I was driving across the country, I've driven across the country several times. Awesome experience. I've actually been through almost every state. I've never been to Alaska, but I have been to Hawaii. I've been to almost every state. I was actually with a friend of mine from Vermont, who knew someone else. I don't know if you know these people. I'm going to leave names out of this. This might have been before your time. This was actually very early when I first moved there. And her friend knew a guy that had joined the military and lived on a military base. He got married so he could have a house on a military base. And so we stopped in Oklahoma to visit this particular friend in Oklahoma. And now I was living in Vermont when I first moved there. So I was a ragged snowboard bum looking guy. I had, facial hair, and I looked like a snowboard bum. I looked like a bum. And people in the military are clean shaven. They're required to be clean shaven. Some of them had mustaches, but that was it. And so we stopped in Oklahoma to visit this dude on the Air Force Base, and everything was fine until he took us to this party on the Air Force Base. So it was like an Air Force party, and we were the only outsiders there. And I was the only person at this Air Force party that these Air Force dudes had seen in who knows how long, whatever, come on their base. I'm sure they go out and have fun, but I was the only dude to enter their base and, whatever, scruffy looking. And all these Air Force dudes at this party just wanted to kill me. They wanted to kick my ass. They wanted to destroy me. So it was just like, it was just one dirty look, comment, weird conversation after the next, until finally this friend of ours who was in the Air Force ran up and grabbed me and said, "We got to go right now." And I was like, "Okay, fine." And we got outside, and he's like, "Good thing we got you out of there. They're about to grab you and dogpile you and kick the shit out of you." And it was,
For no reason whatsoever.
no, just because I had a beard and I looked and I smelled like reefer probably. And that's a quick story, but it was just kind of similar. The you don't want to fuck with with authorities. If something happens and you get involved with it, fine. But you don't want to necessarily incite messing with those authorities, because they have a lot of power and they like to use that power.
Yeah, definitely. And a broader appeal is you don't even actually have to be fucking with the authorities to end up in some trouble.
Right.
It's accidental. I mean, let's face it. Let's not glaze over the idea that certain types of travel, all types of travel, but some more than others, have a small element of risk. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? It's not a reason not to go, because the chances are you're actually going to meet very friendly, wonderful people that want to share their culture and their lives with you. But there's always the chance of misfortune happening. It's been in movies, it's been in books, it's been in real life experiences. Just like Bilbo says to Frodo, it's a dangerous business, Frodo, my dear. Walking out your door, you hit the road and you never know where it's going to take you. And it's totally true. I mean, you're leaving the comforts of home and you're getting into situations that are wholly unpredictable. And of course, that varies quite a bit with where you're traveling. I mean, if you want, like I said before, if you want to do the resort thing, sandals, your chances are you're going to be okay. But if you don't take that route, then you're gonna, you do assume an element of risk. But it's totally worth it. And yes,
totally worth it.
Like Tony says, you should definitely avoid fucking around with testosterone driven douchebags in fucking Oklahoma. It's good advice, Tony.
There's going to be situations where for the most part, I found with traveling, when you're nice to people and when you understand people, you get through those things. I think in this particular case, we have these stories about these authorities. Authorities tend to not listen to reasonable arguments. Like, they just are gonna just be just kind of fuck with you. And so it is what it is. But yeah, I wouldn't trade those experiences for the world. It's like, you go out and do it, and it happened.
Yeah.
You got another one. It's your turn, Kyle. What do you got?
I mean, I got friggin' dozens. Let's go. Yeah, sure. I'll tell you a shorter, just more bucolic version of just how, and I have pictures. I don't have them drawn up, unfortunately. Actually, I might be able to find one, but I was in Scotland, not
Scotland.
Too long. Scotland, yeah. No, I don't. I was in.
Isn't that Russian? Isn't da Russian? Like da?
Da is German. Da is Ruski.
Ja. Yeah.
I guess they just say yeah. Yay.
Hey.
Anyway, I was in Scotland and we went for an extended trip. That was the other thing I was going to say. If at all possible, don't go for a week. It's not enough. You got to go for 2 or 3 weeks if you're going to go someplace with some culture to take in. I know it's out of the wheelhouse of a lot of people, but if it's possible, it's well worth it to really get a fully immersive experience. Anyway, we were in Scotland. We did this wild, awesome tour of a good portion of the country, and we went to some really, really wild places. And in Scotland, all across the entire country are these things called bothies, B-O-T-H-Y. And what they are they're free shelters for anybody that wants to stay in them. They're first come, first serve, and
Kind
they're
of like a hostel, like a different.
yeah, but free.
Mhm. Oh,
And most of them are probably more on the rugged side, so they're for camping people.
sure,
So
sure.
you would bring, there's bunks without mattresses, and there's
I see.
typically there's no running water, kitchens in them. You know what I mean? It's a place for, you have to go to stay for a night. It's either through hikers or people that just want to get away from it, all over the country. Some of them far up on the mountainside, some of them high up 1,000 feet on a cliff on the headlands and the looking out at the outer Hebrides. Just absolutely amazing places. Me and my then girlfriend, we stayed at two of them. One of them was up on it was made out of an old Coast Guard station, high up on a bluff, looking out at the ocean. And it was probably a 700-foot fall, 400-foot fall. It was huge, and it was incredible. It was just one of the most incredible places. But another one that we found was we ended up in Balmoral, which is a huge area that's owned by the British royal family, and that's where they stay when they go to Scotland. So they have a castle at Balmoral, and they have thousands and thousands of acres of forests and mountains all around Balmoral, and that's all held within a national park. I think it's Cairngorms National Park. So we found out, in fact, that there was a bothy deep in Balmoral Forest. So we took this long one-way route, and the roads in Scotland are awesome and wild. They're narrow and curvy and strange, and you drive on the other side of the road. It's really crazy. We drove probably 20 miles along this road all the way to the end, and it stops at this beautiful lake, and there's a parking lot, and then you have to walk about 5 miles along the shore of this lake, Loch Muick. And eventually you come. So we did. So we walked, and there's just stark mountains on both sides and this deep, dark lake. And in typical Scottish fashion, it's wet and misty. We had the right gear on, but it's kind of a wild and windy moor, lake, and there's misty, and it's just awesome. So we're walking along, we go the 5 miles, and then we see like this ancient looking stand of forest in front of us. And it was like stark. It was like crossing over a threshold, over a gate. We went right into this deep, unbelievably gorgeous forest. And there was like a herd of stags walking around, and there was zero undergrowth. There was just these huge red pine, Scotch pine trees all over the place, and this beautiful stream coming down, and the forest floor was covered in, I don't know what it was, this perfect, beautiful green ground growing,
like moss.
Not moss, but a low lying plant. It was like being in a Tolkien scene. It was like being in a fantasy.
Sure.
So we walk along this road, and now we're inside the canopy of the forest, and all of a sudden we find ourselves at this bothy that we knew was there, and it was called Glas Alt Shiel. And what it was what it is, I should say, there was a large stone house. It would be probably along the lines of maybe 4,000 to 5,000 square feet, give or take, made of ancient stone. It was built by Queen Victoria in 1850. It was sold to her son or grandson, King George, in 1950, 100 years later, and it's still where some of the royals go to use as their hunting lodge. And on the back of it was an old storage room, all still made out of stone, that the Bothy people had convinced the royals to turn into a public access Bothy. And so I read descriptions of it. And to get in there, you had to go down this little alleyway in between the buildings. And all of a sudden you go, it's dark. And there was this big wooden door. And, I knocked on the door to see if anybody was there, even though I didn't have to. And I was pretty sure nobody was. We opened the door, and it was this beautiful, rugged, but secure room with a fireplace and a big long wooden table and some benches, and there was some split wood, and up above there was a big wooden ladder with a loft, and it was just me and Wendy, and we had it all to ourselves, and there wasn't another soul, and we were staying at this 200-year-old, 250-year-old stone house with nobody else around, after walking through the misty wild moorlands and through this magical enchanted forest. I started a fire, and then we pulled out our dinner, and it was like, just standard cold fare. We weren't cooking anything. We just had the best fucking time all by ourselves in this most incredible place that was beautiful and gorgeous and magical and special and completely all to ourselves. Anybody could have walked in the door at any second, but luckily for us, we just had this amazing experience, and it was just singular and romantic and magical. And it was all just because we said, Bothies are cool. Which one do you want to try next? Our path takes us this way. Let's give this a try. And there you have it. And it just was this incredible, this amazing experience where you only could have gotten there by finding on a map, doing some research, walking 5 miles through the rain, through the mist, and ending up in this incredible space. And we had a roaring fire and a couple of snorts of whiskey, and it was just totally baller, just totally baller.
That sounds awesome. I mean, that's such an awesome European experience. It's like in Robin Hood, the Mel Brooks Robin Hood. You dared to kill a royal deer. You saw the stags, but you didn't kill the royal deer.
No, we didn't kill it, but we saw the royal deer, and we understand exactly why they were there. They were a protected herd. I'm gonna find you one photo because I'm pretty sure I have it. But where are we next?
Well, I'm going to continue talking about Europe. That's something I really love about Europe. And this is true for a lot of places. Growing up in America, you don't have necessarily such a sense of old things because things are so new. So, in a city, it could be 100 years old. Maybe there's different places out west that are, Native American that are, hundreds of years old, but they're, it's in the desert. But in Europe, there are so many things that are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years old, maybe 1,000 years old, maybe 2,000 years old. And it's just really, really interesting. As someone who grew up in America, it's a really great experience to check that stuff out and to enjoy that kind of stuff. So I really like that story. So my next story is again about my own personal pain, which sucks, but it's in the Czech Republic. Can't find the picture. All right, Kyle can't find the picture. So I spent a lot of time in the Czech Republic. My lady's from the Czech Republic. Czech Republic actually has the highest concentration of castles, I believe, of any country in Europe. There's a ton of old castles in Czech. So there's castles
awesome.
Castles everywhere, and you go. Some are renovated and are like really fancy, and others are like original and old. Most of them are renovated. People there, it's funny, people are like, oh, you wouldn't like that one because it's kind of crappy and run down, but I love it. I'm like, no, I want to see the rundown one. Like, I want to see the original one. So that was really cool. There's one right next to where we were staying that one of the early, we went in this room, one of the early one of the first rooms, and it's like it barely goes over your head. It's from like the 1300s. So you're standing in this room from the 1300s, and it's just the sense of history is it's palatable. The sense of history is really amazing that you don't necessarily get in the States. So that was really cool. Also in Czech, they drink the most alcohol per capita of any country. So they're basically drunks. So they have a lot of great food in Czech. It's a lot of heavy food, and everyone's very friendly. Not a lot of people speak English where we were. So around Prague, around the main cities, some people speak English, but there's not as many English speakers as like Germany or other countries like that. In Czech, it's a little harder to communicate. So I was lucky I was with someone who could help me, but if you're not, it's difficult to negotiate. But so we would go to these different places and go visit people, and every single person wanted to give you some of this food that they had made and give you something to drink.
That's
And
my kind of place.
and it's great, but their culture is, if you don't eat and drink, they're going to get offended, they're going to get pissed off, like, why is he not, does he not like my food, does he not want to accept my drink? So almost everywhere I went, and like, so there's this one day, okay, so this is what happened. There's this one day and we went a bunch of places, and I had eaten so much and I had drinking so much, because everyone's like, here, eat this, drink this. And most of the beers there, they don't have 12 ounces. It's like 22, it's a liter, it's like 2 liters or something, it's a liter.
My Pilsner Urquell glass is
Yeah.
like 3 feet high.
Right. So that's almost everything there. That's not
Yeah.
a 12 ounce. So we went to these different houses, or, went to these different places, and everyone's giving me a giant beer. And if I don't pug it and send it down, they're like, what's wrong with him? And so I'm having fun. I'm having fun, but I'm also being polite and making sure I drink and eat what they're offering me. And it's great. I'm having a good time, but I'm just like, too much food and too much alcohol. And I'm just feeling I'm just kind of over it. But then I picked up a virus. So we go home, we go back to where we're staying, and this virus and I'm getting sick. And I can tell that I can tell like it's like a flu. It's like a European virus. As someone from America, my immune system's not used to it. So I'm just getting sicker and sicker. And I've just eaten all this and drinking all this. And I'm just like, just feeling horrible. And I actually woke up in the middle of the night, and I honestly thought like I was close to death. I was just like, I'm so done. I just feel so horrible. Like I was in so much pain and I was so sick. It was like one of the sickest I've ever been in my life. Again, I think it was because it was a foreign virus, and I was just feeling just crappy there. And I don't have health insurance, and the system there, everything's cheaper. So I'm sure I could go to the hospital and pay like in cash. It wouldn't have been a big deal. But you don't want to, you're in a foreign place and you don't want to like go and deal with like a foreign doctor. So I'm like, no, I don't want to go, I just want to deal with it. So I survived, obviously, but I just felt horrible. And then my wife's father decided to make me this soup the next day to cure me, but it's really a hangover soup. It's not a virus soup. And it was like a garlic hangover soup. So it's a soup that was like garlic to the max. And I'm sure it would be great if you were hungover. I'm sure it would be great if you like were, needed energy. If
did it make it worse?
It made it so much worse. And my wife's like, you have to drink this, otherwise he's going to be offended. Like, if you don't drink some of this, he made this for you, if you don't have some, it's going to be bad. And I was like, okay, oh god. So I'm like drinking this like this garlicky horrible hangover soup and like I have like a stomach virus, and I was just like, oh, like it was so horrible. I was in so much pain, and it was just a horrible, painful experience. But so that particular trip, even though that was a fun story to tell, and that was horrible and painful, it wasn't a bad trip. I had a great time in the trip. There was a lot of cool things. It was just a couple days I felt so bad, and that's gonna happen. You go to a foreign place, that's gonna happen occasionally, where you just like feel horrible from certain things. You got to power through it, and you got to make it through it. I came out okay, and I kept drinking.
Yeah, like we were saying, there's an element of risk. It's not all going to be hunky-dory all the time. Most of the time it is, and a lot of times, a savvy traveler comes up with a certain amount of anecdotal or just of experience, where they can make better decisions. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm not saying you made the wrong one by accepting something from one person, not from another.
But you
But
live and learn.
if you have one experience that goes south on you, the next time you're presented with some, and this is oftentimes takes the form of like, foreign people trying to take advantage of you, perhaps, you know what I mean? Like swindlers or real existential threats, you know what I mean? You start to sort of read a situation. You don't want to get into the situation in the first place. Then again, if you want any kind of a vacation that's not a foofy vacation, you are going to get down and dirty. You're going to mix it with the locals. You're going to find your way into the local traveling corridors with the buses that go along the local roads where you're sharing a bus with local people, livestock, whatever the case may be. And yes, you shouldn't, always buy street food if it doesn't smell good. Like just like these are things that you learn. The one other thing I was going to say, and this isn't a full-fledged story, but I really it just came to mind, is you never know what you're going to get. And you reminded me of this. I went to Israel, and we keep on focusing on Europe, and Europe is great. It should be completely explored. Neither one of us have actually done any real kind of crazy exploring, Africa, the
No,
dark continent.
we have not been there.
I
No,
have not been to the deeper parts of the Middle East or Central Asia, which is someplace that I think I'm absolutely fascinated with. The Far East, forget it. South America, never been. I've been to Central America. It's incredible once. The tropics, I love it, but I've never done some other wild stuff. But you were saying before how, there's some really old stuff over in Europe. It's true. And there's low ceilings, stone, old castles. I went to Israel once with my dad, and we were in Jerusalem, which is a very ancient place. And we went to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which is supposedly the place where Christ was crucified and then resurrected, or maybe resurrected. I can't remember. It's the most holy site in Christendom. So we went there, and the old city is lower than the new city. So you go in the main entrance, and there's people teaming just everywhere, and they're all there to worship and go to this famous place. And then you go into another room, which is down a level, and then another room, which is down a level, and carved into the walls are Crusader crosses from 1100, where, these Europeans went and they chiseled their crosses, and it just gets cooler and cooler. I go down to the nethermost chamber, and I'm looking around with awe, and it's low and small and dank. And I look up at this archway above me, which is not even very far up. It's right there. And somebody had taken a lighter and burned in Metallica.
Nice.
And I was just like, holy shit. I just looked up at it, and I was like, fucking A. Yeah. America, motherfucker.
Well, hey, it could have been.
And it wasn't probably an American.
I mean,
it was
Europeans are heavy metal, man.
I know. And I'm not saying America, like American did this, because that's not. I should have actually said that. That's not really what I meant. I just meant it was almost like it was our cultural stamp.
Right.
Not some American doing it. Probably was a Euro doing it.
Right.
But either way, there I was in the bottommost chamber, the most holy site in Christendom, and some
Metallica.
heavy metal kid had just been just sat there down there, maybe looking around and just taking the time to burn it in. I was like, this is fucking awesome.
That's cool.
It was just so great. Oh my God. Stuff like that. You can't get that sitting at home. You can't get that from watching the National Geographic.
No, you can't. And you do get travel wise, you do get travel wise, and you learn certain things, and you figure things out, and you learn things about culture that you cannot read. So in Czech, there's this saying that you will never hear anywhere except if you go to Czech and talk to some people who are Czech, who are young. So the saying is everybody marijuana pardel. So pardel kind of means
told me this.
Yeah, it kind of means ass. It kind of means like party out your ass. So the saying is like party out your ass, but it comes from America. They think that's, people smoke a bunch of weed in America. So it's just like, it's this Czech saying that these young people say that comes from an American saying, everybody marijuana, and then they add their own pardel thing. It's an interesting cultural thing. Everybody marijuana pardel that you'll never hear anywhere unless like you go there and check it out. And it's just and so that's the type of thing, like you never will get immersed in these cultures and learn certain things until you just go and check it out and be there for a little while.
Yeah.
let's see, we're getting close to the end. I want to do let's do one more story each, but also I'm going to add my one more travel recommendation. So I'm going to do a travel recommendation and tell you a story from that place. My last travel recommendation is from the United States of America, and it is the Great National Park of Yellowstone. Now, Yellowstone is one of the busiest national parks in the world, and I know that sucks. I know there's a ton of people that go there, but the reason that a ton of people go there is because it's one of the most amazing places in the world. It's got the highest concentration of geothermal activity in the world. It's got buffalo, it's got elk, it's got bear, it's got a giant mini Grand Canyon, it's got giant waterfalls. It's just an amazing place. And most people there stick to the kind of the main road. So if you go off a little bit, you can be by yourself, but it is very crowded. So don't go in the peak season. Try and go, when it's not totally peak. But I've been there a couple times. It's really amazing. It's hard to describe. You just have to go see it for yourself. The geysers and the geothermal things are amazing. So we were staying at Mammoth Hot Springs, which are these giant round geothermal pools, and the bacteria turn them different color. So it's hard to describe, but they're just these amazing, colorful, natural pools.
Grand Prismatic Spring.
Who in the what now?
The Grand Prismatic Spring is one of the most notable examples of those pools.
Yes. And so this is Mammoth Hot Springs, and there's like this, and there's pictures of it everywhere. But again, when you see it in person, it's just so much different. Interestingly, the geothermal activity underneath Mammoth Hot Springs has moved. All those pools have turned white.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So you know.
I thought you were talking about Yellowstone.
Yellowstone.
Oh,
Yes.
Mammoth Springs is in Yellowstone?
Yellowstone. Mammoth Hot Springs, this particular one, Mammoth Hot Springs, is in Yellowstone.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yep.
Yes.
Sorry.
So it's a separate, I think what you're talking about might be a separate one. I think we just
I was thinking of a good example in the Yellowstone. If you typed in Grand Prismatic Spring, it would give people an idea of the colors that you're talking about. It's wild looking. It's like blue, yellow, red, green, purple, violet, orange.
Exactly. Right. So this one, Mammoth Hot Springs, again, they all turned white, but that was a few years ago. I don't know if they got their color back. That's what happens with geothermal activity. It changes. So anyway, so we stayed there. We saw a bunch of stuff there. We're driving away from this area, and we see a couple people on the side of the road kind of pointing. In Yellowstone, if you see people pulling over, it's probably because they see some wildlife. And we had really wanted to see bears. We saw some other bears, but my lady loves bears. She wants to see more bears. So she's like, let's pull over. So I'm like, all right. So we pulled over. And sure enough, across this field was this grizzly bear, really large grizzly. And the grizzly bear was being normal and gentle and not being aggressive. So we were like, okay, it's safe to get out of the car and check it out. So we get out of the car and we're checking out this grizzly bear across the field. Wasn't super far, but it was far enough where we felt non-threatened, and the bear felt non-threatened, and everything was fine. More people are pulling over, checking out this grizzly. A ranger pulls up, and the ranger's like, all right, give this grizzly its space. Grizzlies are very dangerous. Grizzlies are more aggressive than black bears. Make sure no one get too close. Everyone's fine. Great. We're checking it out. We're there for a few minutes, and we don't want to like be super like crazy tourists, so we don't want to like stay forever. We're like, all right, give some other people a chance to see the grizzly. Just then the ranger spots something and starts freaking out. Everybody get away from here. And we're under this tall pine tree. We're under this tree. And the ranger's like, move now, go. And we're like, whoa, what's going on? Like, the grizzly's over there. And he shuffles us away. And he says, look, and up in the pine tree are two baby grizzlies right above us. And we totally didn't even know it. But generally, if the babies are around, the mothers are very aggressive. They don't like you being next to their babies. So we must have come upon these baby grizzlies, and they couldn't get down, and they just were hanging out there. And luckily the mother grizzly wasn't upset about it, but the ranger saw it and he shuffled us away so the baby grizzlies could get down. And the baby grizzlies they were cool. They were fine. They got down and they kind of walked away. But seeing these animals that close and seeing these two baby grizzlies like right there come down from this tree and walk away, it was just really, really spectacular. It was really cool. It was nice that it was safe, but it was also wild. You know, it wasn't like a zoo, but we luckily we weren't in danger from this mama grizzly. So that was one of the many, many experiences I've had at Yellowstone. Yellowstone's an awesome place. Check it out if you can. But I warn you, there's a lot of people that go there. Kyle, you're next, buddy. What's your travel recommendation? You got one more story?
Yeah. So I mean, there's there's a lot of recommendations. I mean, I'm not as well traveled as everybody, but I've been a couple places. Just to get away from the European thing, definitely would agree with you that this country has a tremendous amount of travel. I'm going to kind of cheat and squeeze a couple things in. One, you should come to Vermont because Vermont's fucking awesome. It's really, really a great little state.
Brought to you by the Vermont Travel Bureau.
You gotta like. That's right. But my travel recommendation is actually, and my story is something totally different. But my travel recommendation would be St. John, actually, in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And one of the reasons for that is because many years ago, several decades ago, if I had to venture a guess, I'd have to say probably in the 60s or so, most of the island of St. John was actually designated national park. So it's far less developed than the other U.S. Virgin Islands of St. Thomas and St. Croix. So St. John just has a lot of really, really cool places to go that are not overly developed. It's got a fairly simple ring road network, big mountains. There's a lot of trails that connect both sides of the island. So for those intrepid explorers that don't want to rent a car, you can walk or get a jitney. There's really great snorkeling, not nearly as good as it once was because sadly all the waters worldwide are suffering from massive die-offs, coral bleaching, all this other stuff. But I still was very, very impressed when I was there 3 years ago with the quality, 4 years ago with the quality of the snorkeling and the reef. The health of the reef comparatively. So that would be a travel. And also it's very easy because getting there is simple. It's a US territory, US dollars work. The infrastructure is fairly good. So you get sort of the best of several worlds. You get a real sort of grounded experience.
Do they have a local currency? Is there a local currency too?
US dollars.
It's all US dollar?
Yeah, pretty sure. If I remember correctly. But like I said, it's a wild island and it's a really great place to go. I had a blast. I'm really looking forward to going back. But my story, and I'll make it pretty quick because I know that we've been talking for a while. I went to Jamaica a bunch of years ago, and Jamaica, there's a lot left to be explored there, but it's a crazy island. I mean, the whole place is rife with corruption, poverty, all this awful stuff. We didn't go down and stay in Sandals Resort. We stayed just up the beach, actually, at a single house, private rental, gated because of nighttime nefarious characters. But we had a really good time there. And if you look, Jamaica is incredible. They call it Xaymaca, Xaymaca, and it means the land of wood and water because the whole island is made of limestone and it's heavily forested. So there's a lot of caves, like real caves, not tumbled rock, like actual water soluble caves with underground rivers and stalactites and stalagmites. I don't know if stalactites, I don't know. One of them goes up, one of them goes down. Those things in caves all over the island. If you look, we had this really great map on the island, and the whole middle of Jamaica, because of this crazy, they call it karst topography, K-A-R-S-T. It's named after the German geologist that named this type of landform. And again, it's water soluble rock where the surface of the earth it's got these incredible variations in topography and stuff. It's really fascinating. The whole island is like that. So most of the development is on the outside, and the inside, the interior of Jamaica is really, really wild. And as we found out, quite dangerous. So me and my boys, the girls went horseback riding, like on the beach with that, thing that you see in like, the brochure of like, running with the horse through the waves. So they did that. And me and my friends, Tony and Nick, we decided to go find something. I found it on the map. It was like the glistening river sink cave or something, and it was deep in the interior. And this map was really fascinating because the interior of Jamaica they call the cockpit country, and it's called the cockpit country because of all this crazy like little, it's just all these hills and valleys. You can get very lost very quickly. And in other places on this map they call the interior the land of look behind. Sounds mysterious. It was written right there across the middle, the land of look behind. Then in another spot on the map, for no reason whatsoever, it wasn't labeling it. It said, "Me no sen, you no come." So all of a sudden, this stuff is starting to really kind of stack up, and we're like, we got to get to this crazy place in the cockpit country where it says, don't look behind you, and me no sen, you no come. This is like weird Wild West sort of shit. Like this is deep jungle shit. So, we roll up a couple of hog-leg Jays and we're driving out into the cockpit country and the roads are getting wild and there's poverty and it's crazy. And just we're in Nowheresville. Nowhere. We're going up, we're going down, we're going up, we're going down. We're starting to get thirsty because we just ripped down these fucking monster joints. So we all have cotton mouth. And so we stop at this little, starting to sort of feel our way into the deep cockpit country. We're getting closer and closer. But we're just dying of thirst. So we stop at this little roadside place, which was great. They were nice enough. I mean, there was definitely some side eyes going on. There was like, grass huts and corrugated steel huts and livestock in the middle of the road. And the place smelled like, stuff, things, it was a real deal. We go in, we get these sugary drinks, and we're just kind of trying to connect a couple of dots. I go get the map and I talk to the lady and I'm like, hey, we're trying to get to this spot right here. It's sort of down this road, and then we dip off onto the side road and go down into this valley here. And she looks and she gets really serious. She gets totally grave and she goes, you don't want to go down there, man. Bad boys down there, man. Gun boys down there. No messing with the gun boys. So we were like, okay, I guess we're not going to go find this cave. We're not going to do it because you know what? We didn't want to go hang out with gun boys.
No.
Jamaican gun boys, not my bag. I'm into adventure. I want to maybe, go into the jungle. I want to see these places, but I do not want to hang out with gun boys.
Yeah.
So we were just like, and we didn't turn around and run, but we were just like, hey, thanks a lot for telling us, we were going to go down there and check out this cave. And she was just like, no, I think you're going to go and find a bunch of, gangs down there, nasty boys that are going to take you. They're going to take your shit away from you. Who knows what the fuck's going to, she's like, don't go down there. Just don't go down there. Go back the way you came. So we did. So we went back the way we came. We did not mess around. Adventure is one thing, but being stupid is another. And that was one of those things where we looked, Nick and Tony, we're adventurous people. We like the real deal, but we were just like, yeah, it's probably not a good idea. Let's go see what the girls are doing. Maybe we'll get to horseback riding. And, we left. We were like, no gun boys for us. So we never found the cave, unfortunately. And it probably never will. But it was one of those things, you got to abort,
Yeah, absolutely. You may have dodged a bullet, literally and figuratively.
Yes.
So Kyle and I could go on forever. We have a bunch of stories. It's fun to talk about travel, but we're running out of time. So we're gonna hopefully we'll be able to travel soon again, and we're gonna make some more stories. Everybody at home, hopefully you get to travel, make some more stories. Before we leave, yes, Kyle has something to say.
I have a quick idea. Is there a way that we can attach some photographs to this podcast?
Maybe I'll have to talk to my tech guy. That's me. I'll check it out.
If it's easy to do, let's try and do that. And for all of those listening at home, if Tony's tech guy, which is the little person that lives in this part of his brain, is successful, maybe at the end of this there'll be a link to some photographs and you could see some of the places that we've been. I know I have some photographs that I'd love to share. Glasshouse, Shield, Rannoch Moor.
Actually,
places.
I bet I could put them I'll put them in the comments, like the YouTube comments when I post this on YouTube. I'm gonna put some of those photos in the comments. Good idea, Kyle.
Okay.
Before we go, we have some 80s movies wisdom. For those who listen to the show, you know we love 80s movies wisdom. So we're gonna do Spaceballs. Spaceballs is like one of the
Spaceballs the movie.
Spaceballs, the movie. Spaceballs, the movie is like basically one of the, I think one of the best movies of all time. I mean, just an amazing comedy. It's a parody. It's Mel Brooks being Mel Brooks. It's got it all. It's got it all.
Including
So
John Candy.
John Candy. Oh my God. Barf. Barf. So in the theme of travel, I found a quote, a part that I think is hilarious. So they're trying to get the combination to the shield to Druidia to steal the air with Mega Maid, and they threaten to cut the princess's nose. So the guy gives him the code. So the code is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And Dark Helmet says, wait, so the combination is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. It's the kind of thing an idiot would put on his luggage. Then President Scroob comes in and he goes, you found the combination. What is it? And they go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And he says, funny. That's the same combination I have on my luggage. And
where's the wisdom?
There's not much wisdom. It's hilarious. The wisdom is be prepared when you travel. Don't put on your luggage the combination 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just be a little prepared. Be a little prepared when you travel. That's it. That's the wisdom.
I think the wisdom is get out there and travel. Just nice. Like President Scroob, you know? That's what I think the wisdom is. Get yourself some luggage and use it. That's the wisdom.
Boom. Even Scroob's got luggage, right?
That's right.
Get yourself some luggage and travel. Just don't make the combination 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Makes sense.
And that was our show, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate every single one of you. This has been the Holographic Podcast, signing off.